the revolution you didn't see coming, and why softness is the new power move. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by introducing you to someone whose work is changing the conversation around entrepreneurship, economic empowerment, and what it truly means to build something that lasts. Aaliyah Wiley. Aaliyah isn't just a researcher or an advocate. They're a visionary who's documenting a revolution that's happening right now in real time, led by Black women who are scaling businesses, creating jobs, and rewriting every rule we've been told about what's possible when you refuse to let the world define your limits. Aaliyah's work is a mirror held up to a system that said Black women couldn't scale, couldn't lead, couldn't win. And that mirror, it's reflecting back 9 million businesses, 14% of all women owned businesses in this country, 12.6 million jobs created. Aaliyah Wiley is showing us that the revolution isn't coming, it's already here. And it's being led by women who decided that survival mode wasn't good enough anymore. So let's talk about what we've been told. We've been told that systemic barriers are insurmountable, that access to capital is a pipe dream, that Black women entrepreneurs, no matter how brilliant, no matter how resilient, are destined to struggle in the margins. We've been told the odds are stacked too high, the doors are locked too tight, and the game is rigged beyond repair. We've been told to work twice as hard for half the recognition, to hustle until we break, to carry the weight of everyone else's dreams while our own collect dust on a shelf we can't even reach anymore. And here's the thing, a lot of us believed it. We believed that to succeed, we had to be hard, tough, unbreakable. We believed that softness was weakness, that rest was laziness, that boundaries were selfish. We believed that to build something meaningful, we had to sacrifice everything, our health, our joy, our peace, our very selves on the altar of ambition. But here's the truth Aaliyah Wiley brought to light. And here's the truth that should stop every single one of us in our tracks. In 2026, Black women own 9 million businesses. That's 14% of all women owned businesses in this country. And collectively, women owned businesses employ 12.6 million people. Let me say that again, slower this time, because I need you to feel the weight of what this means. 9 million businesses, 14%, 12.6 million jobs. This isn't a footnote. This isn't a feel good statistic to tuck away in a diversity report or mention once a year during Black History Month. This is a tidal wave of economic power, job creation, and community transformation happening right now, led by Black women who looked at the system that said they couldn't and said, watch me. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, well, that's great, but what does that really mean for me? What does it mean for the woman listening to this who's been grinding for years, who's been told she's not enough, who's been carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations while her own dreams sit on a shelf collecting dust? What does it mean for the woman who's tired, who's burned out, who's one more crisis away from walking away from everything she's built? It means this. It means that the narrative we've been fed, the one that says you have to choose between softness and success, between rest and revenue, between being a caretaker and being a CEO, that narrative is a lie. And the women Aaliyah Wiley has been studying, the women whose stories I'm about to share with you, they're proving it every single day. Let me tell you about Serenity Saba. Serenity was a nurse in Atlanta, Georgia. She spent years working in Black neighborhoods, watching her patients struggle with health disparities that could have been prevented. She saw the gaps, she saw the need, she saw her people suffering, and she felt it in her bones. And in 2018, Serenity made a decision that everyone around her thought was reckless. She left her job. She walked away from the security of a paycheck, the predictability of a schedule, the safety of a career path that made sense to everyone else. And she started making wellness supplements in her kitchen. Her kitchen, not a lab, not a factory, not some fancy co working space with venture capital backing. Her kitchen. She didn't have a business degree. She didn't have investors lined up. She didn't have a 5 year plan with projections and market analysis. What she had was a vision. What she had was a community that believed in her. What she had was a refusal to accept that the people she loved had to keep suffering when she knew there was another way. So Serenity bootstrapped, she crowdfunded, she reached out to local Black farmers and built partnerships rooted in sustainability and mutual respect. She didn't try to compete with the big wellness brands that had millions in marketing budgets. She didn't try to be something she wasn't. She built something that reflected who she was, where she came from, and who she was committed to serving. And in 3 years, Serenity Saba grew Serenity supplements by 300%. She now employs 50 people. She's expanded to 20 retail locations. She won the 2025 Black Business Excellence Award, and she's inspired over 100 Black owned wellness startups across the South, creating a ripple effect of health equity and economic empowerment that's still growing. Serenity didn't wait for permission. She didn't wait for someone to hand her a seat at the table. She built her own table and then she invited her community to sit with her. And she did it without sacrificing her softness, without sacrificing her values, without sacrificing herself. Now let's talk about Dr. Nia Jackson. Nia was an engineer at IBM. She had the credentials, the experience, the expertise. She had everything the world tells us we need to succeed. But in 2019, during the pandemic, Nia watched something that broke her heart. She watched small Black owned businesses get hacked, get scammed, get taken advantage of because they didn't have access to cybersecurity resources. She watched business owners lose everything because they couldn't afford the kind of protection that big corporations took for granted. And she thought, I can fix this. So Nia left IBM. She left the stability, the prestige, the six-figure salary, and she founded TechBridge Consulting in Chicago. But here's the thing, Nia didn't just start a business, she built an all Black women led team. She walked into rooms where she was underestimated, where she faced gender bias and racial bias, where investors looked at her and saw risk instead of brilliance. And she let her results do the talking. She pitched her services with data that proved the ROE for minority clients. She built relationships rooted in trust and transparency. She created a business model that didn't just protect companies, it empowered them. She trained entrepreneurs, she shared knowledge, she built capacity in communities that had been overlooked for too long. Today, TechBridge Consulting has secured $5 million in contracts. Nia has grown her team from 5 to 75 employees. She's trained over 500 entrepreneurs in cybersecurity, and she's reduced breaches in Black owned firms by 40% in her city. Nia didn't just overcome barriers, she turned those barriers into a business model that protects and empowers others. She didn't just survive the system, she changed it. And then there's Maya Reynolds. Maya grew up watching her grandmother sew. Her grandmother ran a small sewing business, and Maya loved the way fabric could tell a story, the way a garment could carry culture and history and pride. She loved the way her grandmother's hands moved, creating something beautiful out of scraps, something meaningful out of nothing. So in 2020, Maya quit her corporate fashion job and started Green Roots Fashion in Houston, Texas. She created a sustainable apparel line using African fabrics, blending heritage with modern professional wear. But the supply chain was a nightmare. The retail market was saturated. Maya could have given up. She could have gone back to corporate, back to the safety of a paycheck and someone else's vision. But she didn't. Instead, she localized her production. She partnered with Black artisans who had been struggling to find work. She pivoted to e commerce. She used social media to build a loyal customer base that didn't just buy her clothes, they bought into her mission. Today, Green Roots Fashion brings in $2 million in annual revenue. Maya employs 40 women. She's been featured in Vogue. She's opened 15 pop up stores nationwide, and she's helped revitalize artisanal crafts in Black communities, contributing to a 20% rise in sustainable fashion startups. Maya didn't just build a brand, she built a movement, she built a legacy. And she did it by staying rooted in who she was and where she came from. Now, here's what I want you to notice about these three women: Serenity, Nia, and Maya. They didn't have it easy. They faced capital constraints, supply chain disruptions, bias, competition, doubt. They faced every obstacle the system could throw at them. But they also had something else. They had community, they had vision, they had the audacity to believe that their softness, their care, their commitment to their people could coexist with their ambition. And that's the counterintuitive idea I want to leave you with today. That's the disruptive truth that should shake everything you thought you knew about success. We've been taught that to succeed, especially as Black women, we have to be hard. We have to be tough. We have to hustle harder, work longer, sacrifice more. We have to wear the cape, carry the load, and never ever let anyone see us sweat. We've been taught that softness is weakness, that rest is laziness, that boundaries are selfish, that joy is something you earn after you've made it, not something you're entitled to right now. But what if that's not true? What if the real power, the real competitive advantage isn't in how hard you can push, but in how deeply you can connect? What if softness, rest, boundaries, joy, what if those aren't luxuries you earn after you've made it, but the very foundation that allows you to scale? Because here's what Aaliyah Wiley helped me see: the 9 million Black women owned businesses aren't just surviving, they're thriving, and they're doing it by building businesses rooted in community, in authenticity, in values that go beyond profit. They're hiring locally, they're sourcing sustainably, they're creating products and services that reflect their lived experiences and meet the needs of people who've been overlooked for too long. This is what your soft girl era a can look like in business. It's not about doing less, it's about doing what matters. It's about saying no to the hustle that drains you and yes to the work that fills you up. It's about building something that doesn't just make money, but makes meaning. Something that doesn't just employ people, but empowers them. Something that doesn't just add to your bank account, but adds to your legacy. And I know some of you are sitting here thinking, but I'm tired. I've been grinding for years. I don't have the energy to start something new. I don't have the resources. I don't have the network. I don't have the time. I don't have the support. But here's the thing: Serenity started in her kitchen. Nia left a corporate job with no safety net. Maya pivoted in the middle of a pandemic. They didn't have everything figured out. They didn't have all the answers. They just had one thing. They had the courage to start, and they had the wisdom to build in a way that honored who they were, not who they thought they had to be. So here's what I need you to hear. Here's what I need you to feel in your bones. The 9 million Black women who are already doing the thing, who are already scaling, already hiring, already winning, they're not superhuman. They're not special. They're not lucky. They're just women who decided that the story they've been told about what was possible didn't have to be their story. They're women who decided that softness and success could coexist, that rest and revenue could coexist, that joy and ambition could coexist. And you can be one of them. You can be the woman who builds the business that changes your community. You can be the woman who creates jobs, who empowers others, who leaves a legacy that goes beyond a paycheck. You can be the woman who proves that you don't have to sacrifice your peace to build your empire. You can be the woman who shows the next generation that softness isn't weakness, it's power. But you have to start. You have to stop waiting for the perfect moment. You have to stop waiting for someone to give you permission. You have to stop waiting for all the pieces to fall into place because they won't. They never do. The women who win, the women who scale, the women who change the game, they start before they're ready. They build before they're perfect. They move before they're sure. And here's your call to action. I want you to do something today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. I want you to audit your network. I want you to look at the people in your circle, the partnerships you have, or the ones you need. And I want you to ask yourself, who can I collaborate with? Who can I learn from? Who can I support? Who can I invite to build with me? Because the 9 million Black women owned businesses aren't doing this alone. They're doing it together. They're doing it in community. They're doing it by lifting as they climb, by sharing resources, by building networks that create opportunities for everyone. And you can do the same. You can start today by reaching out to one person, one partnership, one collaboration. You can start today by saying yes to the vision that's been sitting in your heart. You can start today by choosing softness over hustle, rest over burnout, joy over grinding yourself into the ground. Aaliyah Wiley showed me that the revolution isn't coming, it's already here. It's being led by women who look like you, who've survived what you've survived, who've dreamed what you've dreamed. And they're not waiting for the world to change, they're changing it themselves. One business at a time, one job at a time, one act of courage at a time. So here's my final question for you. And I want you to sit with this. I want you to feel this in your chest. What if you stop seeing the 9 million Black women owned businesses as the exception and started seeing them as the standard? What if you stopped waiting for permission and started building your vision? What if you viewed these 9 million businesses as your competitive blueprint? How will you scale your business, your vision, your impact to employ more people in your community this year? Because the truth is, you don't need permission. You don't need perfection. You don't need all the answers. You just need to start. And you need to do it in a way that honors your softness, your rest, your boundaries, your joy, because that's not a distraction from your success. That's the foundation of it. That's the revolution. That's the power move. The world doesn't need more burnout women grinding themselves into the ground. The world needs more women who know their worth, who protect their peace, who build with intention, who lead with love. The world needs you. Soft, rested, boundaried, joyful, powerful. So stop waiting, start building, and do it your way. Thank you